Hello and welcome. I'm Lucy Hedges and it is my absolute pleasure to be your host for this special Canon launch event. Now today we'll be showing you some very exciting new products, starting with the camera that everybody's talking about, the EOS R3. It's the fastest, most advanced EOS camera to date, with its headlines being autofocus and continuous shooting speed. But there's a whole lot more going on underneath the surface. So we'll be taking a deep dive into the R3's impressive technology and speaking to a Canon Ambassador who's been putting the camera well and truly through its paces in recent weeks. We're also going to be running through the latest big RF launches and exploring what these new additions have to offer to users who are just stepping into the EOS R system. And to everyone who is watching this video live and on YouTube, please leave any questions you have about the R3 or new lenses in the live chat box, where our experts are on hand to give you the answers. First though, I'd like to introduce you to Mike Burnhill, who's the European Senior Product Specialist at Canon Europe. Now Mike will be our guide to the R3 and will be able to explain a bit more about the technology involved. So Mike, the R3, we're talking about an incredible powerhouse of a camera. But where does it fit into the EOS lineup?
Well, the R3 sits between the 1DX Mark III and the EOS R5. Historically, we've had the moniker of EOS 3 in the past. It's where we had a 1 series type body that took all the professional features, but we combined the sort of high-tech functionality that we had in features like the EOS 5. So in fact, the last EOS 3 was one of the last products to have eye tracking focusing, which is a core feature of this new product.
Yes, yes. So we're talking about a camera that's unlike anything that Canon's ever done before. Am I right by saying that?
So we're looking at all the key benefits of mirrorless and the key benefits of DSLRs and bring them together to blend to create sort of a hybrid product, because a lot of the users for this product is aimed at are traditional DSLR users, but they want the advantages and the benefits of mirrorless. We want to give them the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and I think it's so fantastic that you do take customer feedback on board. I mean, these are the guys on the front line using this camera, using the technology, so their input is invaluable, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, I spend a large part of my time listening to the customers and understanding how they use the product, because that way we can move it forward. And for key customers of this product, who are the news and sports photographers, you know, speed, using the product instinctively. You know, it has to all about how can we make it more easier for them to use, more instinctively press the buttons, do stuff. All these little shortcuts that we can improve with small improvements makes their life so much easier, and therefore makes, you know, taking pictures and delivering the results simpler. Yeah,
yeah. So is that who the R3 is kind of mainly aimed at? You know, news, sports photographers, that kind of field.
Yeah, the R3 is, yeah, its core group when we were developing the product was news and sports, and they were the primary people we listened to for a lot of the large decisions on when we were developing the product.
Yeah.
And we listened to them, and obviously in the fields that they work in, they're looking for traditional DSLR 1 series values such as the reliability, the weather sealing, battery life, both of the Viewfinder. This is what they love on DSLRs.
Yeah.
We had to keep all those functionalities, but bring in the new technologies, as I mentioned before, the eye tracking, kind of, you know, face tracking, in-body stabilization, all these things. But probably most importantly is to bring these mirrorless functions in, but eradicate what are traditional the weaknesses of the product. So, you know, rolling shutter, which has always been a mirrorless problem, but also flicker. And again, a lot of these sports guys and news, the light sources can be terrible, flickering lights.
Yeah.
We need to be able to remove that with a mirrorless sort of camera as well.
Yeah, so we're looking at some real key requirements for these kind of photographers, you know, speed, rolling shutter performance, network performance as well. Super important for guys on the front line trying to get those shots sent across to editors and newsrooms across the planet in, you know, seconds.
Yeah, you know, the key customers who are using this, the sports that they photograph or the news events, etc. So, you know, Formula One or even Olympics, you know, the 100 meters in the Olympics only happens once every 4 to 5 years. Yeah. So, you know, there is no second take.
Now it's time to meet the R3, and there is a lot of camera to take in. With its brand new back illuminated stack sensor design and top shooting speed of 30 frames per second, the R3 is a powerful tool for professionals. When you need to keep up with the action, this is the camera that won't let you down. Its dual-pixel CMOS AF2 system uses enhanced autofocus algorithms to check the faces, heads and bodies of people and animals. And it's the first EOS camera with vehicle tracking, which can recognise and track racing cars and motorbikes at high speed as well. Now, the R3's standout new function, though, is the Eye Control AF. Now, you're able to select the subject to focus on by simply looking at the subject. So this is a camera that's built for daily professional use as well, of course, with plenty of customizable buttons, dual card slots, a long battery life, and all-important weather resistance. Now, being a hybrid camera, the R3 also comes highly specified for video recording too. So it's able to record full-width 6K RAW video or 4K oversampled video at 60p and 4K video at up to 120p. And it's the first EOS camera outside of the cinema EOS range to allow recording longer than 29 minutes and 59 seconds. Now, to test the camera's professional performance, we put it in the hands of motorsports pros, one of them being Vladimir Rys. Time to see how he got on.
I'm Vladimir Rys. I'm Formula One photographer. Motor racing photography, it's one of the most difficult kind of photographies. When you shoot cars passing by in 350 kilometers an hour, you need a lot of speed. We are in the middle of beautiful Austria and we are using the new EOS R3 camera, shooting Christine, which is an amazing driver.
I'm gonna go up there, better be ready.
Let's do this. This camera gives me everything I need, the speed, the burst, the AF, the vehicle tracking, which is amazing because it can follow the helmet of the driver. With 30 frames a second, it's much easier for me as a photographer to capture what I want. It's Canon, so you know what to do and where the buttons are. Eye control is technology I've never used before. You just use your eye to get the focus point on that car and then you lock onto it and just follow the car and get the images you want. You can shoot 6K, you can shoot 4K, you can shoot 120 frames a second. It's just exciting when you hear the numbers, you just want to get into it and try it. I think it opens your eyes again and gives you more room to be creative again, you know, because you can shoot the cars in the fastest corners and stuff and still get it crispy sharp, so quite exciting. This camera basically gives you the freedom that you can focus only on the picture, which is first time in my career, really.
Now, that was seriously impressive, and we are lucky enough now to be joined by one of the stars of the previous clips, Vladimir Rys, who can tell us what it's like to use the R3. Vlad, hello, how are you?
Hello, Lucy. Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we saw you enjoying the R3 on that e-rally car shoot. Now, you're normally more at home taking beautiful shots on the Formula One circuit. So you were one of the first photographers to get to shoot with the R3. And I imagine a lot of people watching this are very, very jealous of you right now. But what were your first impressions of the camera? Are there any particular features that really stood out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a new era, a new technological era. And you as a creative person know that. And you think about straight away about the new creative space this camera is going to give you and the images you can get with this and with the abilities of this camera.
Yeah, it's opening up the realms of creative possibilities. I like that. How does it feel to, you know, experience that transition from your previous cameras to something that's completely technologically innovative?
I think instant falling in love, you know, because it's your new extension of your arm and it's a new tool you will be using for another 4 or 5 years for sure. So yeah, I mean, it's your best friend in a way as well, you know. So
Yeah, and that's what you want from a camera, isn't it? You want to be able to use it instinctively. You want it to feel comfortable in the hands.
Exactly, yeah. But that's when you shoot with Canon. That's how you feel as a photographer, because you are used to the ergonomic, and the R3 is exactly that. You know, so you need few shots to get familiar with the camera, and then it's your old Canon in your hands again. So.
Now, for an action photographer, being able to shoot at 30 frames per second with full autofocus tracking must be pretty liberating, right? So why do you need that sort of speed for the subjects that you're shooting?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are a Formula One photographer and you shoot cars in 350 kilometers an hour speed, so you need to have a fast camera and fast AF and this frame rate. So yeah, no, very impressed.
And I heard that you were pretty blown away when you heard about the top shutter speed. So what does the ability to shoot at 1/64,000th of a second enable you to capture that you couldn't capture before?
And there's a lot of blind corners in Formula One where you shoot not knowing that the car is coming, you just hear the car come in. So you need a sensor with fast readout, and at the same time, the car can't be distorted. So you need the frame rate, and you need fast shutter speed, which the R3 gives you.
Yeah, so we're talking high-speed performance photography here. And I guess you're achieving the kind of shots that you didn't get to achieve before.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah, of course. It's you can, for example, shooting champagne celebrations on the podium, where you can absolutely freeze all the champagne drops with fast shutter speed. As a creative person, it gives you more creative space, and it liberates you in a way as well, because you can think about shots you didn't know before. You were not allowed to think about before for technological reasons, but now you have a tool like this in your hands, and you can achieve this kind of images.
So what other new features of the R3 made your life easier on the shoot, and did you face any specific challenges in the field?
Well, if you shoot cars like this, like rally cars in dirt and dust, you need the weather sealing, and at the shoot we did, it was heavily raining as well. So, I mean, Canon is famous for this weather sealing on its cameras, and we didn't have any issues with that. But if you shoot racing cars in dirt and dust, you definitely need that. So I was impressed with this as well. I mean, the other features I loved about the R3 is the eye control AF, which sounds like a science fiction movie, but it's reality now. You basically control your AF with the movements of your eye, which is amazing. Now, finally, what were some of the under the skin functions that you discovered? So I love the Viewfinder, as I said. The Viewfinder is amazing. The color transition is impressive, and the quality, the resolution of the image was great. I looked through the Viewfinder; it was like watching home cinema at home. So yeah, it was very impressive. Vlad, honestly, I can hear your passion and excitement for this camera coming through. So thank you so much. It's so great to hear how this exciting new camera performs in this field. So I want to thank you for your time. It's been fantastic to hear from you. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you for having me.
Of course, the R3 isn't just for motorsport. There's a whole world of subjects where the camera's lightning-fast performance can help you to capture shots that haven't been seen before. A fraction of a second can make all the difference between success and failure in a wide range of genres. But with its ability to capture 30 images every second, the R3 really does put the odds in your favour. So let's take a look at how photographers working in different fields have been putting the R3 through its paces.
Okay, now the fun starts, I think. Eye control is technology I've never used before. You just use your eye to get the focus point.
It's really weird to be able to actually change the focus points with my own eye.
To control my points with where I see is so fast. It's so much faster than my fingers. It's actually like reading my mind.
With 30 frames a second, it's much easier for me as a photographer to capture what I want.
30 frames per second? I can't tell you how much I use that. And I'm testing out the 120 video, so I got a little slow-mo in there.
The image stabilization makes it so great because you have 8-stop latitude, enabling me to be able to shoot without a tripod.
This new AF system is more precise, faster. That's all you need.
I just cannot believe how good these cameras are. It just allows me to really focus in on actually getting the shot, and it does the rest for me.
Every single image is just sharp, 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 sharp. You are locked in to the eyes of your subject the entire time.
Autofocus speed and precision matters. This is where the R3 delivers. You get one chance. You have to be ready.
Having the durability of a 1DX3 plus the speed of a mirrorless camera, this camera is wild.
So Mike, it'd be great if we could get a bit more insight into some of the R3's new features that we've seen in action today. But before we dive headfirst into the tech specs, I want to take a look at how the camera has been developed. So what's been prioritised in the development of the R3?
Well, I think in a word, speed. The
Yeah.
whole development of this camera is geared around speed because this is what the customer that's directly aimed at need. So delivering of images, the capturing of images, you know, focusing, viewfinder, menu operation, selecting where you want to focus. So many areas of development have been kind of concentrated on speed.
Absolutely. And now looking at the brand new sensor, you know, it's the first time this type of back illuminated stack sensor has appeared in an EOS camera. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So we can break it down to the two parts, as the back illuminated part and the stacked part. So the back illuminated, we've basically flipped the sensor on its head. So normally a sensor has the wiring at the top because that's the easy way to get all the information out and easier to manufacture. But it makes more sense to have the wiring at the bottom and the pixels at the top where they're larger, but that's a much more complex process to perform. So it's being able to develop the technology to do that. But the benefits are multifold. You can have larger pixels, which allows them more light, so we can have improved noise performance, we can improve the dynamic range, and it also allows sort of better focusing abilities as well. There are many aspects. And then we bring in the stacked part, where we add an extra circuitry and we kind of sandwich it into the sensor so it all becomes part of one unit. And that extra circuitry allows us faster readout of data. And that allows many of the aspects of electronic sensors to be improved. So we can reduce the rolling shutter, we have the faster readouts, we can do 14-bit processing at 30 frames a second in RAW, we can do flash. All these speed-related things are made possible by this extra circuitry built into the sensor.
Yeah, impressive. Now, some people watching might have concerns that there's not enough pixels packed into this camera being at 24 megapixels. So what's the reason for this resolution?
Well, we talked to many of what we call as the core market for this camera, the news and sports guys, and ultimately 24 megapixels is the perfect balance. And 24 is that sort of perfect kind of number, because ultimately it comes down to partly to them is the file size. We kind of mentioned it before, is being able to send images. And the smaller the file is, the better, the faster it is.
Yeah, of course.
But you also want to keep the quality. There's no point squishing it to all the juice out of it, so it's so poor quality. You can make it very small. They want to still maximize the resolution, detail, etc., but have a small file size as well.
Yeah, so we're talking about a fantastic balance here of speed and performance.
Yeah, again, that balance, it's not for everybody. We do have the R5, which is 45 megapixels, where resolution is important to customers. We understand that there are needs, but this camera is focused as its core group within that sort of area.
Yeah. Now, with the R3's 30 frames per second top speed, we're almost venturing into video territory here. So can the AF keep tracking at this speed as well?
Well, without, there's no point having 30 frames per second if you can't keep the focusing up. As we say, you need to have every image sharp. So again, back to the backlit illuminated center and stacked is the fact that we can get that data out. So now we can subsample the focusing 60 times a second. So every shot basically has the focusing checked before and after, So we're really kind of getting that sort of accuracy. We've also reduced the focusing speed. It takes, now it's like 0.03. So it's our fastest camera we've produced so far for sort of focusing. We've also improved the AS algorithms, so they're faster, they process through faster. We're adding the tracking to make things easier for people. The whole AF points, how they kind of operate, have been changed. All these kind of improvements make that performance for tracking moving objects so much easier. But we haven't stopped there. We've also increased the performance of the low light, so now it's down to -7.5 EV. So that's ridiculously long exposures. At ISO 100, it's like a 4-minute exposure.
Yeah.
So we're looking at AF in all aspects as well as speed and all the different environments that you can use it in.
Yeah. Now, can you explain how the autofocus has been improved? We saw Vlad making use of the vehicle tracking AF in that video. This can recognise racing cars and bikes, is that right?
That's correct. So with the EOS R5 and R6, we introduced what we call deep learning, which is basically an algorithm computer system where you analyse lots and lots of data, and we build the focusing algorithm out of that. So we analyse thousands and tens of thousands of images. So for the R3, we've incorporated open formula cars, Formula 1, Formula 2, GP, GT cars, rally cars, motorbikes.
Yeah.
And we program the system so it can recognise these cars in different angles, different shapes, so it identifies, it can see that's a Formula 1 car. And then to add on top of that, we've incorporated another function, sub-option, is whether you want to track the helmet or not. So if you can recognise the helmet of the motorcyclist or the open-top car, if you can see it, it will track that instead. So that's what we've kind of really enhanced, but we've also enhanced the face tracking and eye tracking for humans as well with a bigger database. So, whether people are wearing helmets or masks, etc. So it increases the sport, news stories that this sort of system can work in as well.
Yeah. Now, obviously, one of the big features of the R3 is the eye control autofocus. Now, Canon originally introduced this way back with the EOS 5 back in the 90s?
92, I think, yeah.
Wow. So how has it been implemented with the R3?
Yeah, so obviously there was a limitation in the technology we had back then, and we reached a certain point where it couldn't go any further. And that's because of the physics of how the eye works and the resolution that we could produce. So now we have a 7,000 sort of pixel sort of sensor that tracks the eye. And we have several LEDs that kind of shine infrared light into the eyes. We have some for glasses, some for eyes, different distances, and this actually can track your pupil as it moves around on the sensor. But it's probably important to kind of stress what it is and what it isn't, because the way the human eye works, it's impossible to physically kind of track an object to the millimeter to say, focus exactly on there, focus here. What it is instead is designed to move, to interface your brain technically with the camera, because the human brain can identify what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
And a camera can't. If there's two celebrities, A-list or B-list, who should I focus on? Again, that will depend on who you're working for, perhaps,
Yeah.
But you will know that, but the camera can't know that. But your brain can then, your eye can tell the camera which of the two people to focus on.
Yeah.
So eye tracking is amazing, but it doesn't know, there are 4 eyes, which eye to focus on. So it's interlinking the eye control with the focused subject tracking.
Yeah.
So you're telling it which object out of multiple objects to track onto. And it's also worth pointing out that to get the best out of the box, so you need to calibrate the camera for those different conditions.
Yeah.
In the same way that when you get your new phone, you have to do your fingerprint so it can identify
all the angles.
All the angles. So the same with the camera, you need to do it for different orientations, different brightness conditions, and then it has a better imprint of your eye and can identify it and clearly identify what you're looking at in all conditions.
Yeah, and what I love, it just sounds like such an instinctive feature as well that's going to be quite natural for people to use and shave off those seconds when it comes to focusing on a subject.
There's nothing more instinctive than actually just looking at something. And it's basically cutting out the feedback loop of you looking at a focusing point in the viewfinder and moving your thumb across a joystick and moving that point, and then your eye saying that's the right place. I can just move away that whole interaction between my brain and my thumb and just look, focus, and that's it.
I love it. Sounds very sci-fi. Now, the camera also features the same smart controller for selecting AF points as the 1DX Mark III. Is that right?
That's right. Again, I think we've sort of mentioned before that a typical customer for this camera will probably come from a 1 series or a DSLR. So we wanted to make the controls as seamless as possible.
Yeah, and I guess what's interesting is, certain types of autofocus might not suit certain environments or certain photographers, so it's nice to have that option.
Yeah, again, you have the multi-controller, which are traditional, that's been around for a long time. We have the smart controller and the eye control. And the eye control might not work for everybody. So we have options that suit every different user. So the camera can appeal to a wide range of different users in different conditions.
Yes, and that is so important. There are also some major improvements in the electronic viewfinder. You know, Vlad had a lot of positive things to say about this feature. Tell us what this means for users.
We've developed a new EVF ourselves. It's a 5.76 million dot EVF, which runs up to 120 frames per second. It's a beautiful viewfinder. The frame rate doesn't really drop. You maintain the high resolution all the way through at that same frame rate. So you get the maximum performance in all settings. And even in low light conditions and when you are shooting continuously, we've tried to keep that frame rate as high as possible.
Yeah.
Because these are the conditions where you need it. Often other systems will have to drop down because it's balancing data, but here we've realised that it's important to keep those two balanced. And one of the nice key features that we really like is the new OVF, optical viewfinder simulation, where we're using HDR technology in the viewfinder to give a broader, wider spectrum of colours and dynamic range in the viewfinder that really mimics what you'd see through an optical viewfinder. So therefore you see more detail in shadows, more detail in the clouds. Some users will like the exposure simulation mode where they can see exactly how the image will look, and other people will probably prefer the optical viewfinder simulation.
Yeah. Now there are some other features it shares with the 1DX Mark III, aren't there? Do you want to tell me about those?
Well, there's so many. We see a lot of people transitioning from one to the other, or even working side by side. A lot of people will, drop a lot of money and ditch all their old stuff and move to multiple of these units straight away. So we tried to make it as seamless as possible. So obviously things like the network settings, you can actually copy the settings from one camera to another.
Nice.
So therefore, you don't have to reset up all your FTP servers. You just put it on a card, using the same card between the two cameras, CF Express cards. You can move that across. You can even use the network settings on the R5 if you use the WFT transmitter as well. They also use the same battery. Again, a lot of people have lots of batteries, and again, an extra charger is always a pain. You have to take two different types of chargers. So therefore, we've kept the same charger because the LPE19 battery has a fantastic battery life on this camera. Real world situation is kind of insane. So having that balance of accessories and stuff between the two cameras makes it much easier to use and swap and use them side by side.
So you're taking the good bits, the best juicy bits out of this camera and putting them into the R3.
It's just we just understand what the customer is going to go through as part of the journey, that they will want to have multiple things at the same time. It's very few people will have at this stage all R3s. They will have maybe a mixture of stuff. So to make that transition of having all the parts and not have to get rid of everything, replace everything, is super important.
I hate reading manuals, so if anything cuts that out, I'm game. So the R3 is quite the step up from the 1DX Mark III and the R5, isn't it? Aren't there something like, I think you mentioned it earlier, about 100 improvements, many of which are based on customer feedback?
There's some cool little things, tiny things. Some will make it into the spec sheets, and some people only discover when they pick up the camera. But I love things like the fact that, if you're a stills photographer, and you don't shoot movies, you can use the movie switch to set the camera to silent. So, we had one of our photographers was shooting football in the recent football tournaments, and he was allowed in the changing rooms, and he could flick the camera into total silent for the changing room. So he could go into stealth mode and kind of shoot behind the scenes while the coach is doing all the speeches.
It's not interrupting anybody.
But then when you got on the pitch and there's fans and the noise, you don't want to be shooting at 30 frames a second in silence because you don't know the camera's going off. So you can flick it back into normal mode and you have that audio feedback.
And I guess these are the guys out there on the front line using this kit, so they're the best people to give you that insight. Now the R3 also has some advanced video functions as well, so it records full width 6K raw video at up to 60p, is that right?
That's correct, So video, obviously, the future is a mixture of stills and video, it's not one or the other. Obviously, we've really enhanced some of the video functionality. So being 24 megapixels, so the maximum resolution is 6K, as you said, 6K 60p in RAW, 12-bit RAW, which you can then use most of the sort of professional video editing to adjust white balance or exposure in post-production. But also for those who don't want to deal with the RAW, all the 4K sound footage up to 60p is oversampled, so taken from 6K down res to 4 in camera, so you can still shoot full focusing as well. You can even track vehicles at 60p, 4K oversampled. You have a choice of bit rates as well. All that's in the camera. You can record those bit rates at different to different cards as well. So there's a whole host of video functionalities.
Yeah.
So we've improved that. We've also improved the recording time. We've also removed the limitation, the 29-minute, 59 seconds sort of limitations now been removed from this product.
Yeah.
So in theory, you could record up to 6 hours should you have a car, battery, etc.
Yeah.
Possible. So there's all these little things have been improved. We've taken the 4K 120 as well. We've improved the image quality compared to the R5. So we're kind of addressing many of those kind of issues, and be able to shoot video and be able to switch between them with a single button.
Yeah.
It's trying to create that holy grail of everything in one sort of product.
Yeah, oh, amazing. Well, it sounds like we've achieved it. Finally, I understand that there are some new accessories being launched.
Yeah,
alongside
obviously,
the R3.
I think one of the key thing with the camera is actually its new multifunction shoe.
Yeah.
So now we've actually updated the hot shoe, so there is actually a new interface that allows you to power camera accessories through that hot shoe and transmit the data digitally. So we've got a new digital microphone coming out. Again, no cables into the side, no batteries. We also have a small speedlight transmitter, the SCE10, that fits into the hot shoe again, powered off the camera. That controls all our sort of radio transmitted flash guns. Again, press a button, menu opens with the camera, and you can control them all there. Wow. What's really cool on the sideline is you can use the Connect app to also control the flash guns through the same system.
Nice.
And even use it as a trigger as well, so that's really cool. But we're also looking at a new, teamed up with an audio company to make a XLR adapter that fits into there. So now you can use high-grade microphones using XLR sockets into the system. We have a new eyepiece as well that allows you to kind of eye cup that kind of covers the eyepiece, makes life much easier if you wear glasses, stops lots of flare. We're also in 2022, we'll bring out an adapter which allows you to connect your smartphone to the camera using our sort of mobile file transfer app, which allows you to kind of transmit images via 4G or 5G without any cables or stuff. Just plug it in.
Brilliant.
And again, that whole accessory speeds up the workflow. The less cables, less transmission things. Just shoot, press a button, transmit the images and go.
Yeah, wow, it sounds like a brilliant bunch of accessories, and who doesn't love an accessory? Honestly, Mike, thank you so much. I really do enjoy picking your brain on all things Canon. It's been such invaluable having your time, so thank you for that. It's great to hear that so much is happening at Canon, especially with the R3. Of course, no camera system is complete without a range of high-quality lenses, and the EOS R system is supported by some of the finest examples that Canon has ever produced. With its large diameter and high-speed communication, the RF mount gives Canon's designers the opportunity to create unique lenses that haven't been seen before, such as the compact 600mm and 800mm f11 super telephotos and the 28 to 70mm f2 zoom. There are now more than 20 RF lenses available, and today we're going to be looking at 2 more lenses to join the range. So first we have the RF 100 to 400 f5.6 to 8 IS USM. Quite a mouthful. Now this new super telephoto zoom delivers a flexible range of focal lengths for wildlife and sport photography in a groundbreaking, truly lightweight design. With 5.5 stops of image stabilization, nano USM focusing and impressive close focusing capabilities, it changes everything for this class of lens. And at the other end of the RF range, we have the RF 16mm f2.8 STM. Now this ultra-wide prime lens opens up a whole new world of possibilities for photographing landscapes, architecture, and the night sky and beyond. It's compact, discreet, and focuses smoothly, making it a fantastic option for shooting video. To explore these new lenses in more detail, I'm joined by John Morris, a Canon European Product Marketing Manager who knows them inside and out. So John, there have been some big RF launches over the past year. Tell us about the new lenses that you've announced today. Let's start with the RF 100 to 400 f5.6 to 8 IS USM. Let me take a breath. What is the story here and who's it for?
Well, it's a very compact telephoto lens. So 100 to 400 is a very versatile lens for wildlife and sporting subjects. So you might be, for example, into travel
Yeah.
So you might go traveling and explore nature. And of course, sometimes it's all about how much kit can you carry with you. So the priority for this lens was to make it as light as possible and give excellent range.
Yeah.
Plus it has the image stabilization, which you need if you're using telephoto lenses. It also has the Nano USM, nice smooth autofocus motor.
Yeah.
So it's a really versatile lens, but also very practical as well.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting birds, for example, that's a great range to have because you can get quite up close, but it's got a very good close focusing distance as well.
Yeah, and 100 to 400, that's quite popular among amateur photographers, right?
Yeah, it's a long established sort of sports and wildlife zoom range. So there's the 100 to 500 millimeter L series lens, which we have also in the range, and in the EF range we had the 100 to 400 as well. So, but it's not been really at the amateur level before.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting to have this new edition.
And is it similar to something in the EF range?
Yeah, I mean, you can compare it to the 70 to 300 Mark II USM lens, which was introduced some years ago, which is very popular for amateur photographers.
Yeah.
You could say that it takes on many of the attributes, being sort of affordable and also sort of accessible for amateurs. But it sort of brings the RF benefits into that sort of concept.
Yeah.
So with the RF lenses, we're looking to do something new. Of course, users that have that lens already can adapt it into the RF system, the EOS R, with an EOS R body.
Yeah.
But you have now this option of extending the range and being more portable. Plus, over and above that lens, you've got better image stabilizer compared to that, and it's lighter weight as well.
Yeah, and I think being able to fit quite nicely into a camera bag without knowing that it's there, I think is a very crucial, important
So
point,
very
isn't it?
practical.
Yeah, yeah. So the maximum aperture of this lens is f5.6 to 8. So can you explain why this decision was made?
Yeah, we wanted the lens to be lightweight and portable, but still offer a great sort of practical, versatile zoom range.
Yeah.
And because now we have the mirrorless system with dual pixel CMOS AF, it can focus at narrow apertures. Previously, we could only go to about 5.6, and then you start to have some impact there. But this new system can focus at f8 or f11 with the teleconverter, or f16 with the 2x. So these sorts of lenses become more possible with the new mirrorless system and the technologies included within that. We talked previously about the 600 f11 and the 800 f11 now being possible because of the mirrorless system. So now amateurs have access to a broader range of telephoto and super telephoto lenses that they wouldn't have before.
Okay, so how about this lens here? This is the RF 16mm f2.8 STM. It looks completely different in front of us. So what is the appeal of this one?
Well, it's completely the other end of the focal length spectrum. So with the 100-400, it's about getting close, and the 16mm is about getting a broad frame or broad perspective. And that has many advantages across different types of users. So for YouTubers, for example, ultra-wide lenses are used quite a lot because you're at arm's length, pointing the camera at you, and you want yourself in the shot, and you want some context as well in the background.
Yeah.
You want to capture what's going on, you want to speak directly to the camera, you're quite close to the camera, and you want something quite lightweight and preferably bright as well, f2.8, because you want it to work indoors. You want it to also separate you from the background. You want that nice out of focus effect.
Like a depth of field,
Yeah, so this is designed for those types of users, so YouTubers, content creators, and also for photographers, typically landscapes and astrophotography. It's unique actually because you don't normally get a lens like this, as small as it is and as affordable.
So how do these lenses fit into the rest of the RF range?
So these will form the group of sort of amateur class lenses in the RF range. So they're relatively affordable and practical lenses, but with every lens has some sort of distinct advantage. Like the 35, the 85, they have macro as well. So they have a trick up their sleeves.
Yeah.
So they do something different, yet they're affordable and accessible for people coming into the mirrorless system, because you need those lenses that are versatile and practical.
So there's something, you know, something for everyone.
Yeah, it's about
and
designing
that's so
lenses for
important.
everyone.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to ostracize anyone. You want everyone to get involved.
Yeah.
On that note, John, I want to say thank you so much for walking us through these two new-fangled lenses. Such fantastic products. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that now brings us to the end of today's event to introduce to you the incredible EOS R3. I'd like to thank my guests, Mike, Vlad and John, and I'd especially like to thank you guys for tuning in. Now, we've only just scratched the surface of the R3's potential, but I do hope you've enjoyed getting a close-up look at this exciting flagship camera and the new RF lenses. The R3 breaks new ground for mirrorless camera performance with all the speed, control and image quality that professionals need. It's a camera that shows Canon is listening to user feedback, and I cannot wait to see how users are going to use it to push their photography and video even further. All that's left to say is thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.